Hey there. Welcome to the Gyro Step, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, probably a part of the Blue Wire podcast and GSPN. I am Ty Windisch, one of your hosts for this delayed live show, joined as always by the excellent looking, poster bound, Dame time occupant, Rohan Katti. He's tapping the watch, the clean watch, of course. Rohan, how's it going, sir?
Doing well. I'm tapping the watch for a good reason. We got to see Dame time again. I feel like it's we got a little taste in the first game of the season, and now we got the whole thing.
All right, Chuck.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of inside the NBA funniest Chuck and Shaq moments, and that would have been right up there. I think Shaq would have been losing it at that, but we sure did, Rohan. We had a terrific Damian Lillard game. I believe his first time scoring 30 since opening night against the Sixers. But I don't even want to start there. I want to start with coming into this game.
This in-season tournament game.
Yes.
By the way, the Bucks are the first team in NBA history to win an in-season tournament.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
The Pacers beat the Cavs Pacers, a little sooner, but they're one of the first teams. Also, never lost, to use your very famous meme form in in-season tournament games. But even that aside, and I'm excited about this. It's a big deal that they won this game for the in-season tournament standings to make it to the knockout round. I digress. I was. Let me think of the right adjective, Rohan. Befuddled. No, I don't know if befuddled is the right word. I was worried, but think of like a more sophisticated worry, a highbrow worry about the Bucks coming in, and more so about Adrian Griffin and coaching. And I think what became clear in Bucks Raptors, which was horrible, was they just had to let Brook do Brook stuff on defense. They had to let Brook play around the basket. The trapping with Brook, they were last in the NBA in field goal percentage allowed at the rim. Like the things the Bucks did well, they weren't doing. Nothing was really working, and I think that was bleeding into the rest of the basketball game. And what did we see to open Game 5 of the season? But the aggressive 5-man trap thrown out. We saw Brook Lopez around the basket, and Brook missed 11 shots. I believe at one point he was 1 for 7. Some people were upset. I said, I don't care. I don't care at all. He is controlling this game. I think the Knicks had less than 50 points at halftime. They came on a bit late thanks to Jalen Brunson going supernova and some pretty hot three-point shooting, but it wasn't enough. The Bucks won. The Bucks won because the defense looked awesome. Rohan, we needed to see this. I mean, as important as a Game 5 can be, I think this was up here. And I think, people will laugh at Griffin for taking this long to see it. He came in with his own ideology. He let it go, and it clearly worked. And he's being very honest about that. We'll get to the quotes. But I think this is a huge deal. And we talked before we started recording. I know I'm saying a lot. I'm sorry. And that even if they dropped this game against the Knicks, I would still come out feeling better about the Bucks than I did going in, because we just saw this was Milwaukee Bucks basketball. And they can clean it up. They can get better. But God, it was nice to see this. But where are you at on all this, and how are you doing, sir? I asked you that already, actually.
Yeah. That's we've had an interesting night, but it was great. It was exactly what you wanted to see. Again, it wasn't perfect, but after last game where they just got embarrassed, frankly, by the Toronto Raptors, you wanted to see them come out and actually make a concerted effort to actually change things, try and switch things up, and just go back to what's comfortable. One thing I mentioned in the offseason, there's a lot of concerns with the first-year head coach, but one thing I brought up is that there's less pressure on Adrian Griffin than there is on most first-time NBA head coaches in this respect, in that they have stuff to fall back on. This is a team that they know how to play together. They've played together for a while. Obviously not Dame and the rest of the team, but Khris, Brook, Giannis. Those guys have played together for a long time now, and they know what works on defense. Brook and Giannis especially. They know that if they have Brook at the drop waiting for them at the rim, and you have Giannis as a help defender roaming, you can wreak havoc because they've done it for years. Obviously, Adrian Griffin's going to come in. He's going to want to implement his own style. But if that doesn't work, they could just have something to fall back on. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what we saw happen. They fell back on what made them successful in the over the last few years. And it was very successful. Like we saw Brook have like his most dominant game of this young season. We saw this Bucks defense play really, really well. This team, it wasn't allowing a ton of shots at the rim, but the shots at the rim they were allowing were basically uncontested. They were allowing a ridiculous, I don't have the number in front of me right now. I wish I did. It was like 70 something percent at the rim.
It was above 80.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
It was like 80 something at the rim. Yeah, you're right. And it's just because a lot of times they were getting lost. The shots that were getting at the rim were just uncontested dunks a lot of times because they were like just having these breakdowns on defense. JJ Redick rightly pointed it out on the ESPN broadcast. Like you can have Brook out there trapping. You can have him going and being aggressive and showing high. But if you get past Brook, there's no one back there. And they were just, it was like if you don't contain them, you're just giving up a layup or a dunk. That's exactly what was happening. The Bucks made the adjustment. They fixed that issue for now. We'll say for now, because I'm not convinced this is going to be the base defense again. But they have a stopgap.
Really?
They have a stopgap as they go to develop more things and play around with things. Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Especially with a guy like Brook. Maybe it should be. I don't know. Because we don't know a lot about this team yet. we genuinely, no one knows what the perfect idealized version of this team on defense is yet. So everyone's trying to figure it out on the fly, and we're getting like this stopgap on defense, like I mentioned, because you had that to rely, like you had something to fall back on. And we saw them go to that safety net because frankly, they needed to.
Yeah, they did. And my questioning to you is more, I just think you can do other stuff with Brook, and I think we'll see them do some other. But I thought tonight was actually a pretty good marriage of the aggressive trapping defense, but while just keeping Brook in the drop and like maybe trapping and rotating with 4, but you still have that safety net there. And giving up open threes isn't good, and they lost a couple shooters. I will say not as badly as they did against Toronto. I mean, they were closing out. There were some it was like Dame closes out a step too late versus OG Anunoby's been open for 10 seconds on the perimeter. Like it was a level better, but I just think it's clear. So this was after the game. There was one during the game too. I'll try to find later, but per Eric Name, this is Adrian Griffin in the post-game interview with the media. Quote, sometimes as coaches, we're too smart for our own selves. A couple players came to me. I won't disclose them. They wanted Brook deeper in a drop. I was smart enough to listen to them, and it paid off tonight. Now he said tonight, but I mean, I think the results are kind of undeniable.
And the quote in the middle of the game interview, by the way, it was very, very similar. Griffin said, sometimes the players are smarter than the coaches, and they wanted Brook in the drop, and I'm smart enough to listen to them.
I mean, it's clearly Giannis and Khris, right?
I was going to say it's maybe Brook.
I don't think it's Brook.
It might be Brook.
I think Brook's a good soldier. I mean, Giannis was the one after the Raptors game. He literally was like, we need to have some tough conversations. I think the tough conversation was, Griff, throw this out, man. We're dropping. We're dropping. I mean, we've heard Giannis has been more vocal than Brook about Brook's role defensively and what it means for Giannis over the years. I mean, when Brook came back from the back surgery, Giannis was like, this is awesome, man. I love this. I think Giannis was at least one of the players who was like, hey, listen, I like your ideas. They're fun. When the big fella's out there, we got to do this. And I would like, there was one possession, I think it was Brunson on the baseline was driving, and Brook came up and trapped him on the baseline. And I was like, oh, like that's a smart trap. Like he couldn't get the ball over Brook to the rim because of where he was on the court, and he had to pass back out. And then Brook was able to just move back into the paint and drop again. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, that's probably something we wouldn't have seen. I think usually Brook wouldn't have come up, and it wasn't like a shot contest. Like he came to trap before Brunson was shooting. And I was like, oh, that's good. I think that kind of thing is nice. And if the other players, you want to trap actions and swing around Brook, absolutely. But Brook down low, I mean, they gave up too many rebounds again. I thought some of it was just, that's what the Knicks do. I thought some of it, I mean, there was like, at least 4 where it just hit a buck in the hands and bounced out. Like, that's not a scheme. Just grab the ball. You can't blame coaching for guys not grabbing the damn ball. I don't think they're coaching them to not hold on to the
It
ball.
was Serge Ibaka-esque.
There was some Serge Ibaka-esque rebounding.
It was Thon Maker-esque.
Yeah, well, let's not go that far. They didn't throw it all the way out of bounds, but there was one possession where that happened, but it was a miscommunication on a cut. Anyway, it was so nice, though. I was so relieved the whole first half. Like, it was kind of an up and down half. Overall, pretty good for the Bucks. But seeing back-to-back point totals for the opposing team in the 20s after they had given up 30 more than half the time in quarters, like, we needed this. Like, as great as the offense can be, we know Bucks basketball, you still have to be at least a good defensive team. They were 29th in defensive rating after their first 4 games. I said 28 is a good goal. I'm going to guess it's maybe going to go up a little bit more than that. We'll check.
The bar is below it. The bar is underground.
Hey, little by little, Rohan. Little improvements are all we need at this point. But I was very encouraged. And then, anything else from you defensively that you wanted to touch before we get into offense?
I mean, just I want to circle back to what I was saying about maybe this isn't going to be the base defense for the rest of the year. Again, like it very well could be. I think Adrian Griffin's going to do what he wants to do eventually. He just needs time. He needs time to figure it out and needs time to be able to recognize what his players are good at. I mean, it's probably going to end up being like a meld of the two.
Well,
but
my thing is this. I think that's fine. As long as when Brook is out there, you have him by the rim. And we've talked about before the year and during the year, there's different ways to do that. Like, again, they didn't really use it much tonight. I think zone, like, for sure, zone can work great. I think having Brook and Giannis in a zone works. And you can trap, and certainly you can drop. I think we'll have a Malik Beasley conversation. Wasn't a great Malik Beasley game on any front. But, and that is kind of, the drop, you really do need those perimeter defenders to fight a little bit. I thought Dame had probably his best defensive game as a Buck. I didn't think he was horrible earlier. I thought he had moments off and on. I thought this one was really strong from Dame. Some really plus plays defensively, but Beasley not so much with the plus plays defensively. Anyway,
yeah. Newmark rightly points out that he had some clutch defense too. I was about to bring that up.
Yeah.
Just after he hit that massive 3, he just comes out there and plays great defense on Jalen Brunson to start securing the victory.
Well, statistically, I already mentioned Dame had the 30 points. He only was credited with 2 steals. No, 1 steal and 1 block. That's what it was, which still feels a little bit low to me, but oh well. Yeah, that is a good point, Newmark. And a good question from Logan on what Giannis can do better to play alongside Dame and vice versa. We will get there. I think we'll have a whole segment on Dame Giannis actions and what was better, what can be improved. As in terms of adjustments, was this the most we've seen Brook and Bobby playing together this season? Like it felt like, I think the lineup was adjusted bigger against the Knicks, which I thought was a good tweak. And I think that's been and that wasn't even coming into this game, but certainly after this game, the thing I like about Griffin, a lot of the base stuff didn't work. Some adjustments also didn't work. I think we've seen the Bucks do more different things in 5 games than maybe we ever had, like in the last 5 years, across any random 5-game sample, like 5 consecutive games. Maybe playoffs, but like this isn't the playoffs. This was in season tournament seeding game, pretty close, but the other 4 games, certainly not playoff games. There have been a lot of different defensive coverages. There's been offensive tweaks. I think there's been lineup tweaks. I mean, I'll pull up soon when we talk about him. Like Beasley's second half minutes were slashed because he was just mincemeat against Brunson. And the adjustment was just, okay, you're not going to play anymore. Like guys are not being left out to dry if they're not contributing offensively. And I thought on the offensive end, the first defensive play of the game, the Bucks, Brook was in drop. The first offensive play of the game, Damian is pick and roll. And to me, like those first 2 plays, I was like, the rest of the game can go how it goes. That's really encouraging to see because I think, would it have been great to see that stuff coming into game 1? Sure. Reality is it was game 5 and they were 2-2 coming in. It was far from too late to make those adjustments. And I thought they were made. I thought Dame felt like he was on ball a bit more. But Rohan, what were your general offensive thoughts from this game?
I still think it's definitely still a work in progress. There's not as much of something to fall back on offense compared to defense with the Bucks because they've just added an entirely new offensive engine to their team. So unlike the defense, you can't really just like go back to old reliable, because old reliable isn't really there. You have Dame on your team now. You have Khris Middleton still in a limited role. It's just so tough to try and replicate what you did, because you can't. You don't have the same personnel. You don't have the same play style. It's just not feasible. So I do think it's still clunky. There's still a lot of kinks they need to work out, but it's starting to look a little better. It's starting to look a little better. You can see that they go on these runs at times where it's like, okay, there's the rhythm, there's the flow that you want to see. You have these guys moving all up and down the court. You have them making the right reads, ping, ping passes, and then you're leading to like nice, easy buckets or some like good shot making. Like there were a couple times, we'll get to Boss Man. Boss Man was just like finding himself wide open so many times because he was reading and reacting to the offense, because the entire team was reading and reacting to the offense. It's a consistency thing now, because you'll have times like that where they're just playing the beautiful game Spurs ball. And then you'll have times where they look like the Toronto Raptors on offense. Not besides the last game.
Yeah, the other Toronto Raptors games where they're horrible in the half court. Yeah, it's still a work in progress, but I think coming in they were 11th in offensive rating. I'm not sure where that's going to go after this game. Maybe it would rise if they didn't smoke like 4 wide open layups. I mean, Brooks
Pat's
2 in the first quarter. Pat's was bad. The Brooks were worse, I think.
Yeah, like Brooks is a 7'1" guy.
Pat had someone coming to contend. Like it was almost a floater. I think that's why he missed it. It was kind of one of those halfway in between layup and floater shots, like the one we saw AJ Green try and take a 3-point shot basically with his body from that range, and it didn't work. Brooks were tough as well, and then yeah, Bobby. Well, I think someone in chat said Bobby missed a dunk. I thought he got blocked on a dunk. I don't know if he straight up missed a dunk in transition, but anyway, yeah. I mean, I think they still need to just improve. I think part of the issue is Giannis. People keep saying Giannis. Giannis has to. Yeah, he does. He has to continue learning how to be a role man, how to work with Dame. Brooke just has to. Brooke has to pass sometimes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these possessions, dude, he just doesn't. I think he led the team in shots.
He did. He was close, yeah.
He did. He tied Dame with 15 shots. Obviously, Dame and Giannis had more shooting possessions with their free throws drawn. 15 shots for Brooke is too many. You know what you got to do, Brooke? Dribble your huge self out by the arc and do a DHO with Dame and let him do whatever he wants. You don't have to do these midi fadeaways every
time. Maybe this was part of his not going to Houston part of the contract.
He took 10 threes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's just too many.
Yeah, I mean, he did hit a few. I mean, he hit 4 threes. Like, you'll take that.
Yeah, it's a good percentage. I just think it's probably too much.
10 threes is a lot. 10 threes is a lot. I mean, to be fair, the Knicks have one of those guys who's like a quick giant in Mitchell Robinson. So it's just a difficult guy to really deal with in these situations. Like, I think Mitchell Robinson is maybe the guy in the league who bothers Brooke the most. It's something I've noticed over the years. He's just a monster.
I mean, yeah, I think the height, the leaping ability, like there's not many guys who can truly get over Brooke, but Mitchell Robinson is one of them.
Exactly. Because Brooke can usually just like, he's just bigger than most guys. He's not bigger than, like he doesn't have the length.
Wait till he runs into Wemby. In like
I was about to say, what happens when he runs into Bull? I heard they're the same player.
I don't think that's fair. I watched the segment with Shaq. And it was dumb, but he was like, well, we saw a 7'4" guy chuck threes before. And everyone's like, oh, he thinks they're the same player. Technically, he's kind of correct, but it's still stupid to say. Regardless.
To be able to chuck threes, though, for Bull's case, you need to be able to get the shots up.
Get minute.
Or just literally his shot is like an actual trebuchet.
It works out on 2K, I've been told.
Yeah, but it takes 5 years to load or something. But yeah, it's just the Knicks are just a weird thing where it's like they almost force Brooke to be an outside player. It's such an odd
they're so big and clunky.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing with the offensive rebounds.
Bread and butter too.
Yeah, with the offensive rebounds too, like that's just to a certain extent that's what they do. Like these were different offensive rebounds than some of like the Raptors game, the Hawks game were the two worst, but even against Miami, like the ball is bouncing and then it ends up like going to a Heat player. The Knicks just go and get it. And again, the Bucks just fumbled some. So I wasn't as concerned about the rebounding in this game. Brook had 8 blocks, though. That one jumps out at the stat sheet. That's pretty excessive. Wow. What a game, a return game to the drop for Brook Lopez. But I think, yeah, offensively, still a work in progress. I felt like Dame was more involved. I mean, he had 30 points, so obviously he's a little bit more involved than, whatever game it was when he had 6. Was that Toronto or some recent game? He had like 6 points. It's like, that can't happen. That's not good. In addition to taking 15 shots, which again tied with Brook for team lead, Dame also took 12 free throws. So even if you just look at shooting possessions, kind of like trips to the line plus shots, Dame was first on the team by a solid margin in this game, which is what you want to see, along with 4 rebounds, 4 assists. That's the thing. That's the thing about getting Dame. Like, it can be clunky, but there still can be good enough just because they have Dame time now, who's such a tremendous closer and just gets it done. And again, I don't know if you saw the quote from, or the tweet from Eric Name, the DHO 3 he hit was an ad lib. The play wasn't right. He just hooked around Giannis and drained the 3. That's the kind of stuff they can do now. The plays cannot work, and they can just be like, oh, here you go, Dame, make it happen. And he certainly did that in this game.
For sure. It's just, you have the talent, like, that you can be able to just, like, if nothing's working, they'll be able to figure it out. Like, you have these just obscene amounts of talent on your team. It's just, it's a blessing where it's like, something's not working. We can just, like, these guys will figure it out. Let's set a screen for Damian Lillard. He'll get open and shoot a 3 because that's just what he does. He's one of the greatest to ever do it in that regard, and just in general. Do you have any other thoughts on just, like, again, we didn't see a lot of Dame Giannis actions again.
I think we saw probably more than they've averaged. I think it was 29 coming in.
Yeah, something like that.
So that's like what, 5 or 6 per game? No, a little more. 7 per game.
Chat. But you start to see it a little bit more, but it's almost like just come on.
They should do more.
At some point, it's Giannis needs to learn how to screen. We haven't really talked about that at all this season. He doesn't set screens.
Yeah. He should do that.
He does not set screens at all. And the way he does it is he just sort of stands there and doesn't, like, put any force into his screens. He just stands there, almost slips out immediately, and doesn't roll hard at all. And it doesn't lend itself towards anything, because if you see Dame getting trapped, sending 2 at the ball, what you want to do is have Giannis rolling into open space immediately, because 2 just went out the ball, but he's sort of stuck halfway in between because he wants to sort of operate in that long 2 mid-range top of the key area. And that allows the defense time to recover. So you've almost accomplished nothing on a possession in that regard. Even though it has been so far and will continue to be just a lethal combination, because even though, like I'm trying to say, like, Giannis isn't the best screen setter, it still works. Yeah. It still works, but it's frustrating because it can be so much better. And I don't understand what the issue is.
I think he just has to set screens. I mean, it's that simple. We mentioned on the pod earlier, like, he has to go to the Brook Lopez school of screen setting and just figure out how to plant the body and really impact the defender. I also think they could probably set him a little higher. I mean, I think they're kind of wasting some of the appeal of Dame. And they did this, like, late in the game with horns. They set the horns pretty high. But Giannis kind of screens for Dame right around the arc. Move that up like 5 feet. Make it so if someone's coming over, their guy is clearly open. Like, I mean, Dame can pull up from there. Like, that's the whole thing about getting him. I think Giannis should be screening for Dame even farther above. And then that just gives him more room on the short roll to make those easier decisions. I mean, you watch Steph and Draymond when they do this, and, Giannis isn't going to look like Draymond on the short roll. Draymond has been doing this for like a decade now and is one of the best in the league at creating out of the short roll. But because of the gravity Steph brings, they start that thing up top. Draymond has a wide open field. And then it's like, okay, very easy to read. Is my guy giving me too much space? I'll go to the rim. Otherwise, who's open? So I think that they could do that, like, strategically to help Giannis out a little bit. But also, just set the screen. And I get it. It takes a physical toll. There's a reason that most of the guys who set elite screens like don't do a whole lot else offensively, right? Like they set the screen, they roll, they offensive rebound. That's about it. Giannis, of course, does a lot more, but at least some of the time he's going to have to set real screens, even just to get ready and get more reps. So it's in a playoff setting, he can do it more. I don't think he has to set 20 real physical screens a game, but at least like 5 real ones a game, and at least, what do you think, 10 Dame Giannis actions per game at least?
I think that's a fair goal. I think that's reasonable.
Two and a half per quarter.
It's not obscene. Like that's not a ridiculous number at all. I think that's
2 a couple quarters, 3 a couple. That's honestly still almost seems low.
Yeah, I mean it's a start though. Like you said, you got to build little by little earlier. I guess we're setting the bar low because we know how high expectations are and just how high the ceiling for this team is. Because if you take a look at that first half that we were just glowing about, team there's a lot of avenues for improvement in those situations, and they were still playing what we consider to be great basketball. Like it's just the ceiling of this team is that high where you just need to be able to just scratch at the surface of that potential and just keep growing as the season goes on. Again, we're 5 games in. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be incredible right away, but you just need to be able to see the signs of growth. And I think it's good that we are. Like, let me be clear. I think it's good that we are starting to see these signs of growth, because the goal is to not be like to reach your elite level by December. It's to reach it when it comes to May and June. That's what really matters. You want to hit your stride, maybe April too. You don't want to lose in the first round again. But as soon as the playoffs hit, that's when you need to be ready. That's when you need to be ready to go. And you just need to be able to see the signs, the building blocks being laid, not the bricks being laid, as the Celtics would like to tweet. But
that was Randall in the first half.
That's Randall all games this season.
No, he heated up. He heated up in the second half. I had to say first half because he had a pretty good second half. I'll give him credit.
Credit where credit is due, but just generally this season.
27th in defensive rating.
Let's go.
Let's go. I said 28th would be a good goal. 28th. We're moving on up, baby. Could rise even more after some other teams play if they do bad defensively.
Who else stood out to you this game? Because there's one guy I want to talk about. 2 guys.
Do you want to focus on good first?
Yeah, let's focus on good first. And I think Andrew spoiled one of them in chat. Not spoiled. He just called it out. I mean, Bossman 99.
Yeah. Let's do Bossman. I mean, I think 2 guys made pretty good cases to be the 5th starter, and 1 guy made a very good case to no longer be the 5th starter. Poor Malik. Bossman was just excellent. I mean, he continues to be the player that I hoped he could be, and I think we saw in flashes last regular season. Very vocal, useful defender. Looks quicker than I expected. They were putting him on point guards, and he honestly held up. Really savvy.
Like you mentioned, he cut weight.
He did cut weight, even though he's listed at, 490 or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
like he actually weighs a ton.
Literally. 14 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, no turnovers, only 1 foul for Bossman. 4 for 6 from deep. The shot looks good this year.
The shot does
really
look
compact.
Good. Yeah, it looks really tight.
Yeah.
And that's good, because when you're playing on this team, you want to be able to make quick decisions. You don't want to, just let defenses have any chance of time to recover. So a quick shot is good in this situation. But Jae Crowder, Bossman 99 himself, the shot, like this was a great shooting game for him. Like you mentioned, 4 or 6 from deep. It's not always going to be like that. You can't expect it to always be like that, because this is Bossman we're talking about. But he's just doing everything else very, very well. He's rotating on defense well. He's making the right reads. Like I mentioned earlier, he's finding opportunities and openings on offense to be able to be set up for these shots. And it's really, really, really encouraging to see him being able to play with all of these guys. And he's doing it in like a variety of different lineups. It's not just like you see him out there with the starters. You see him out there with the bench units. You see him out there with any combination of players, and he's still doing his thing. That's what I like to see the most, because that's why I thought he was an X factor going into the season. His flexibility is his biggest strength, and that is coming through.
He just looks like, and I think this is what he's been his whole career, right? Like the perfect complement to high usage, big time offensive players. Like I think the best thing about Boss Man is, and it's funny because his quotes after the bad playoff run made it seem the opposite. He is though one of those guys where he could not touch the ball for like 2 straight quarters. He gets his mitts on it and he looks like he is just fully locked in. Like it's like a microwave scorer, but he's not a scorer. He's like a microwave, like, okay, I haven't touched the ball in 10 minutes. I know exactly what to do with it. Like there's no delay. There's no like, oh, I'm rusty now. He just always looks like he's fitting in right. He's got that sense, a little George Hillian, not entirely, but a little bit. He also is the master of
2 weeks in a row. We got George Hill talk.
It's going to happen every week. He's also the master of the catch and throw pass, like in midair. He got one of the MarJon threes, was off one of those. Like he sees the game very well. I thought his entry passing stood out to me last regular season. Just a big fan of how he looks, and like he's really important to this team, and people can be concerned about that. I think that's fair. The way he's playing, the way a lot of other guys are playing, I think Boss Man is a critical piece. The way he's playing, that isn't that bad because, again, he's playing really well. So credit to Boss Man, making a great case to start, ends up playing, Boss Man played 23 minutes. Only Pat played more off the bench. So they both played about a minute more than Malik Beasley.
Yeah, it's let's should we talk about Malik Beasley or MarJon next?
Let's talk about MarJon first.
Okay, let's keep going with the good.
Yeah.
So I heard you had something for me, Ty.
I do. I don't know if this is going to show up on the live at all. Let me see. Oh, kind of.
For the audio listeners.
Over here.
Ty,
for the audio listeners, I'm holding up a form. Oh, it's backwards. It says MarJon Beauchamp apology form. I was wrong. And then a checkbox, and there's a place to sign. Let's see if we can hear this great paper ASMR.
So you had wanted to sign this on our last pod, and I said, hold on.
Yeah, what was that? The Heat game?
Yeah, that was the Heat game. I was like,
he's still not playing enough, I think, but it's signed. Ty. Wow. This is how I sign things, by the way. I realize I heard a guy just puts a sailboat. You can put anything. They don't check. I used to think you had to like write officially your whole government name. I'll just put Ty now. Yeah. But yeah, I officially am signing the MarJon Beauchamp apology form. My slander of MarJon was just I thought Andre Jackson was a more NBA-ready defender, but it wasn't like it was that critical, but I'm still signing the form. MarJon's defense has impressed me even more than the shot making. And he shot the three really well, as he did tonight too. But the defense on quicker guards, he's picking up too many fouls. He's got to learn. He's not used to, I think, guarding the primary offensive player.
Quickly got him a few times on
Brunson
caught
did
him on
too.
His back.
Yeah. But that'll happen. I think he just needs more reps guarding those kind of elite offensive players he probably didn't get before. But wow, he looks really locked in, really quick defensively. He's really good at staying in front of guys, not getting totally beat outside of the fouls often. I think he will get better about that. Ooh, we've seen some really exciting MarJon Beauchamp runs so far. He looks really good and composed on both ends.
He does. He really does. And it's crazy to think how far he's developed in the last year. Because last season, even though, again, I was very high on him before the draft. I wanted the Bucks to draft him. Just dropping that again. You saw last year.
As casual of a drop as your, let me get this watch up in the camera for Dame time. Real casual stuff from Mr. Katti.
I didn't have it last time. I made sure I wore a watch this time. But you saw last year, MarJon would make plays of a guy who hasn't played a lot of organized basketball at a high level, which he hadn't. And now you're just seeing he can stay on the court. Because that was one of the biggest things is you saw the flashes with MarJon last year. You saw what he could be able to do. And again, he's not even close to being a fully formed product yet. There's still a lot to work with there and still a lot of things he needs to improve upon. But you're seeing that he can be consistent. You're seeing that he can stay on the floor. He's not going to make bad decisions most of the time. He's not going to just travel every single possession when he gets the ball, be indecisive about what he wants to do. He looks more confident. He looks like he knows what he wants to do as soon as the ball touches his hands, or if he's just trying to get himself set up off ball. He knows where his shot is. Like, he knows where he needs to take his shots. He's comfortable at different levels of the court. He's able to play consistently without, again, the fouls are a bit of an issue, but it's not as bad as I felt it was last season. It's great. It's great to see.
Yeah.
It's great to see. And I'm not on the train for him to be the starter. I can't get there yet. I really can't get there yet.
I think that's Boss Man's spot to lose with this. I mean, technically still Malik's. We'll get to
I was
Malik.
gonna say.
I think out of the people vying for it, I think Boss Man's the one that makes sense. I think the way he's playing and the way he also guarded quicker guards, including one literally named Quickly, I think he did a pretty good job in this game. It's not like it's only MarJon, but wow, MarJon doing that off the bench has been really important to this team.
He looks like a real rotation player.
My stat for MarJon, he only played 13 minutes in this game, 5 for 7 from the field, 3 for 5 from deep, 2 assists though. Actually, I think his only 2 assists on the season. It's kind of crazy. Right. Yep. But the important stat, after he was Mr. Travel last year, in 62 minutes, MarJon has 1 turnover this season so far. That's a huge improvement for MarJon Beauchamp. You know, does it help? He's shooting 7 for 13 from threes, which is nearly 54%. Yeah, that's good. We know that's not going to last. But the shot looks better. And someone in chat here on Playback mentioned, yeah, it's nice to see him not do a hezzy tween before every shot, which kind of is what he did last year. There was way too much of that. Now he'll catch, set, shoot, like all in one motion. I think he's been watching some Patty C tape, but he's looking good. He's looking really good, really important on both ends. And I think this is a guy whose role probably only grows as the year goes on, the way he's playing and just the what he can do for this Bucks team, which is just awesome. I see you're grinning again. It's so exciting to watch your guy really come along like this.
Hey, I mean, again, like we've mentioned, not opposed to bandwagon fans. Join us on MarJon Island. Not Island seems kind of. There's a lot of MarJon believers out there now, but yeah,
MarJon Peninsula.
Sure.
MarJon Isthmus. Isthmus. That's a hard one to say.
It is. I'll workshop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so good to see. But unfortunately, we have to talk about the bad now.
Oh, Malik Beasley.
It's crazy because we didn't even give him an upstock last game after he had like 20 points.
Well, there was a reason.
Yeah. Go into it.
I mean, it's defense. I mean, the national media gets the W on this one for saying, hey, you guys can't get this excited about Malik Beasley on defense. We said, no, he's locked in different. It's a different energy. What do you mean, who's we? You were never on board?
No.
Oh, I was on board.
Maybe I was.
I think it's, and this is pretty common for mid to worst defenders around the league. On ball, he's not bad. I mean, like, he fights. It's not like he's just like giving
It's
up.
not for a lack of effort.
No. Well, off ball, he just gets lost. He can't go around screens at all. Like, even Dame.
He dies on every screen. And somehow he ends up like
around him
4 feet like behind the screener with like he's on all fours somehow. It's like, how did you get there?
He just gets taken out by the screens. It's not good. And then offensively, he's just kind of inconsistent. He ends up only playing.
He can light it up if he needs to.
Like, he can light it up. But I mean, he just didn't get the touches today, and then he kind of forced shots when he did. He only got 1 minute and 22 seconds of play in the fourth quarter, and I think about 8 minutes in the second half. After he had 22 total minutes, so 14 minutes in the first half.
And the defense fell off, Ty. I hear correlation equals causation.
Yeah, you think they were missing Malik on the defensive end there?
I kid.
He had 3 assists. I mean, I don't think he's like totally out of the rotation. No. But I do just think the thing with Malik Beasley, and I kind of thought about this watching the game, and I think we should talk about Khris next, who maybe said F the minutes restriction. I think that's an unofficial telling of what happened, but did end up beating it by about 4 minutes, whatever the reasoning or the story is. Dame has to be the worst defender in the starting and closing 5. I think it was probably obvious before. I was drinking the Beasley Kool-Aid, and now I'm just like, we just can't have Dame and Malik. And then I think Khris has been fine defensively. I think he's been smarter. He's defending bigger players now. I have not watched Khris and been like, that's a big problem. on defense. But I just think Malik, Dame, Khris cannot exist anymore defensively. I'm ready for the starting switch. And the way the minutes went today, it seems like maybe Adrian Griffin is too. We'll see if it happens next game or down the road a bit. But I just think the defense isn't there enough. They didn't get him the ball enough offensively. It's not necessarily a red flag for him. I mean, we've talked about the offense. It's still just kind of gummy. But he's not contributing that much. I mean, defenses are leaving Dame open sometimes. The spacing benefit just isn't really also there because there's so much else to worry about. Let's put someone in there who can defend, take away transition, whether it's Crowder, eventually MarJon, maybe even Pat. But I'm less excited about that option than the other two.
Yeah, I think Malik Beasley is more suited in a role where it's like, okay, you need someone who's an offensive spark plug. You don't need that in the starting lineup. You really don't.
Not if they're never going to see the ball. It's like, who cares? He had 2 shots tonight. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. He'll usually get up more than 2 shots.
Yeah, he will.
It's just, I don't like it. I really don't like it. I think
you can't have a negative offensively, but I think that the guys we're talking about are not that.
No, which is why I've seen some people saying like start Andre Jackson Jr. It's like, no,
too unproven.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, but it's you have to you just can't be a non-factor on offense. I don't want to say go all the way in the other direction. I'm just saying you need, like, I've said this for a few years now. You need a Tony Snell type. You need just a glue guy who's just going to be a connector in the starting lineup. You need a guy who will make the right pass, who will defend, or at least try to defend. And yeah, he can do some stuff on offense. Like maybe like the perfect version of Tony Snell, I guess.
Still available. Still in the G League.
Yeah, good for him. But yeah, like that type of player. I think that type of player really fits in the starting lineup. And I think Boss Man's the best version of that on the team right now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the most proven. I wouldn't even hate, though. I mean, if we're going into game 6 in like the second week of the season, if you want to try MarJon, I mean, if we're trying stuff, clearly that's kind of like an ethos of the team so far. I do think just the, not wearing out Boss Man or asking him to chase too many perimeter guys to start games around screens. I see the vision more I would rather have MarJon than Beasley now. I really would. And I'm trying to rein in just like seeing MarJon play 2 or 3 really excellent games and not totally overvalue that. But the way he's looked defensively and the way he just shoots, I'm sure he's going to have really bad shooting games. I think they'll be fine. I mean, what they have offensively, I think they can work it out, whether it's MarJon or Beasley out there. But I'm fine with Crowder too. I would like it to be one of those two, aka not Beasley, and just let Beasley and Bobby be like the super potent bench duo. Let Bobby post up with Beasley there, so if the help comes, he can just throw it right out to him. That's good. That's fine. Do that. That's fun basketball.
You need a team that goes on like a unit that'll go on a run when it's like in those minutes when Dame and Giannis are maybe sitting together. You just need that.
Did you see the comment in chat? That's so funny. Ajax lover James Ontario goes, a guy like Tony Snell, but not Tony Snell who's available. It's like a girl who says, I wish I knew a guy who treats me good like you. That is you to Tony Snell right now. I brought up that Tony Snell's afraid you go, well, just we're going to find a nice small forward who can hit some threes. That's all I want to find. I really value our friendship, Tony Snell.
I would never want to mess that up, Tony Snell. I would never want to mess up our friendship. I would never want to risk it,
What we have right now
is perfect.
In my head is just too precious for me to risk having you on the basketball team again, Tony Snell. Oh, brother.
Should we do stocks?
No. I want to talk about Khris.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Khris busting through the ceiling of the minutes limit, logs 21. So he was at the 17 again. 4 minutes left. Khris checks in. Marcus Johnson. Actually, MarJon, if you shorten it, would also be Marcus Johnson, which is kind of cool. Marcus Johnson goes. Yeah, I wonder if he was ever called that. He certainly wasn't reporting. I don't want this to be taken out of context. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he kind of like hinted at like, was there a pushback on the minutes restriction to close this game out? Was the idea. Whatever happened, I think Khris looked good in all 21 minutes, shot 5 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from deep. 9 rebounds, 4 assists, no turnovers for Khris, 12 points. Season high 21 minutes for Middleton in this one. I probably said that already. He adds so much. He is such a steadying presence. And we got a new action unlocked in this game. The Dame Khris pick and roll. Super fun, dude. Because if they trap Dame, Khris is just like wide open, 18 feet. Hell yeah.
That's
I'll
his
take that
shot.
all day. I love this shot.
That's not something we had really thought about going
No.
in. It's just because there were so many other options you wanted to think about. And you don't really see, like, because Dame and Khris are like, oh, 2 of your primary offensive engines. You don't really think about that because of how potent we imagine and we've seen the Giannis Dame actions be. But Dame Khris is fun. It's fun. I think Khris is just fun. Khris is incredible. This team goes as far as Khris Middleton allows them to. What we've seen so far in his minutes, yeah, they need Khris. Like Giannis and Dame are going to be like obviously the highest members of this team. If they don't perform well, this team's not going anywhere. I think the same applies to Khris. If Khris does not perform well, this team isn't going to have the highest ceiling that they want to. They're not going to achieve the goals they want to because Khris just makes this offense unstoppable. He does because he's good at every single facet of the game. You want him to be a spot-up shooter? He'll do that. You want him to go get a tough bucket on his own? He'll do that. You want him to create? He'll do that. He can do anything you want him to do, and he's big. Like he's
leading into the size. He's playing a lot bigger. 9 rebounds in 21 minutes.
This is what happens when what you need to do, I should say. If you're like a taller, like a shooter, offensive type player who's starting to get up there in age, and he's
suddenly jacked.
Yeah, and suddenly just in the best shape of his NBA career. And you just like Khris Middleton has never played like, what is he, 6'8"? Yeah. He's never played like he's 6'8" before. He's playing like he's 6'8".
He's had flashes, but not on the rolling end of pick and rolls. Certainly, that's been new for Khris.
Exactly. He's playing up to his height now, which is just like, thank you.
Yeah.
Khris is the best. I can't say enough good things about Khris. Like, this is a guy who, like, he put up 12 points, and I'm just raving about his offensive ability because it's not something that the box score is entirely going to capture. I'm going full you don't watch ball take right now. Not you personally, but like you just need to see it. You need to see it, and you'll notice it right away. You can see how much havoc he creates. This is what we imagined for Khris going into the season. Like, yeah, you're going to let Khris Middleton be your tertiary playmaker. Good luck with that. You want to have Khris Middleton run up against like a defense that's not set, that's in rotation, that's a lot of the times your third best defender on him. Good luck with that, because Khris will tear you apart.
That's what he's been doing. I love how he's getting to the rim too. He's getting to the rim strong. He's not just taking the open jumpers, although he certainly is knocking those down. I think he's looked good, like post injuries and everything. Like I think he's moving pretty well. I have not thought he's been a big negative defensively either. I'm interested for your thoughts. Sometimes I miss stuff on that end. Thought he's moved around pretty well. He's just guarding different players.
It's not been bad. It's not been like nothing's like been just very clear to me, like, oh, Khris messed this up. Oh, Khris is the reason this happened. Has he gotten blown by a few times? Sure. But so was everyone else on the team.
Yeah.
He's not standing out to me in any sort of negative way on the defensive end.
No, I've been really encouraged by everything from Khris. And to see him again, just every time we see the minutes go up, that's encouraging. Because we still have, I think it's, always end of the third quarter is typically when we get the non-Dame, non-Khris, non-Giannis. And I just imagine those will probably be Khris units. And it's like, that's pretty good then if your worst unit is Khris. And I honestly, there's some angst about it. The lineup I think today was Campaign, MarJon, Pat, Crowder, Bobby. That's not even really an incoherent lineup. I mean, it's not great, but it's not like what's the thought process here? It's a point guard, 3 two-way wings, and a big guy. That's not a horrible lineup.
It makes sense.
It's not crushing, but it's not bad. But if you can swap in Khris for, whichever of the wings you want to say, or maybe even for Payne, right? You could do that too and just be big and more flexible. Like if the lineup is MarJon, Pat, Khris, Jay, Bobby, then all of a sudden you're cooking with grease. And that's your survive in the non-stars minutes lineup. And I do think we're going to get there when Khris is 30 minutes versus 21, but big encouraging sign, I think, again tonight for Khris Middleton. I maintain excitement for when he's able to fully go, because I just think it unlocks so much for this Bucks. I mean, we keep saying it. We say it every pod, but it is noticeable when he's out there, how much more flow they have, how much steadier they are. Yeah, I think get the athletic defender out there with that starting four and get Brook to shoot a little bit less. And then I think we're really going to we haven't really scratched the surface of what this team can be yet. Yeah, which is exciting. They're 3-2. I mean,
exactly. I mean, 3-2 is not like amazing.
No,
it's 5 games. It's 5 games. You're still trying to figure this stuff out. Khris, again, is still like returning. He's on a minutes restriction allegedly. Just trying to fight past it. I mean,
break it, Khris.
21 minutes. I mean, like, yeah, that's
yeah,
not
still
normal
not
Khris Middleton minutes. Is Khris Middleton getting upstep?
We've talked about it like 3 games in a row, so I'm here for it.
I'm here for it.
Let's give Khris one. Bucks stock market brought to you by insert company here. Hit us up, to be honest. We'd love to. You could get in every tweet. You could get mentioned in every post-game pod when we talk about the stock market. Just saying, HML hit my line if you want to sponsor the Bucks stock market. Watch companies, beer companies, some of our interests, but it doesn't have to be those things. Really anything.
Breitling, hit me up.
Yeah, Breitling for sure. You can get 1% off of a watch for Rohan, and that's probably equal to the sponsorship. Yeah. So Khris up. Are we thinking Dame and Giannis steady?
I was thinking maybe Dame up, but I'd be.
Yeah, you know what? I loved his defense, and again, he took over and won the game late. So I'm here with Dame up.
Yeah, Bossman 9-9 up.
Yeah, he's been really good. Is he? Oh no, he's gotten 2 already. He's going to be this year's riser.
Yep, he is for sure.
Yeah.
Brook Lopez up.
It's so funny because he started 1 for 7 and was 4 for 15, but with the 8 blocks, I think we kind of have to.
Oh yeah, for sure. And plus just the defensive monster that he was. Yeah. And just like seeing that. And then Malik Beasley down.
Yep. I think we give Marj one.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think
excellent large MarJon Beauchamp game.
Bow clamps.
Yeah. Do we give Griffin his back?
I don't think so, because then we'd be too reactive. That's 2 games in a row.
True.
We have to do it based on trends.
You're right. Let's see how they start the next game,
People are very invested in Adrian Griffin stocks. I've never seen anything like it.
Dude, you know why? Because there is a subset of Bucks Twitter that was just so against the hire for legitimate and illegitimate reasons from day one. And since we're only now 5 games in, we are just in let's find ways to prove my priors mode still. And obviously they started bad, especially games 2 and 4, and there were easy to prove priors there. And people wanted him to be fired. People were saying call up Terry Stotts, all this other ridiculousness.
Oh, we should mention the
Sergio Scarolio.
Yeah,
I did not say that right.
I don't know.
According to Sportnado. You also don't know. Come on, Rohan. You got to know one of these. You got to help me out a little bit. You were over in Europe. You were in Europe for games. I need you. You're the expert now. You're the expert now. Spanish national team coaching legend Sergio S. Apparently, the Bucks have expressed interest in hiring him to be the lead assistant, which I think
it was the role that Terry Stotts had before he stepped away.
Which they have not officially put anyone existing on the staff into that role. We figured kind of de facto Prunty for now, but clearly the Bucks are still looking. Green flag from the front office and everything to try and find someone else to occupy that role. This is a proven coach, I believe, and I don't want to go over my skis. I believe one of the pioneers of bringing the Spain pick and roll over. I don't know if that's 100% true. I do know he did work on Toronto's defense with Griffin, so he does have some experience there as well.
Yeah, also, there is an existing relationship.
A very decorated Italian coach who, again, coached the Spanish national team, and Vitris Bologna. It's not pronounced Bologna, is it?
I don't think so.
I'm doing this I don't even have it up in front of me. This is all on memory. So I know all the facts.
Yeah,
I just don't know how to say it.
Defaulted to you, and it's okay. At least you are letting people know that you are not an expert in these pronunciations.
It's all a rumor. If they hire him and we ever have to talk about this again, I promise I'll get all of them right.
Yes.
But I did not specifically prepare coming into this pod outside of reading the article about it. I know people who know European hoops well were very excited, and who were involved in the Bucks are very excited. Who are rooting for the Bucks, not work for the Bucks, are very excited about the prospect of this hire. So yeah, by all means, do it.
No, for sure. And did we have any other stocks? We kind of just like ended this.
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing.
Yeah.
I think it sucks. It's gone around this joke that, the 14 or however many teams turned down Adrian Griffin did the right thing. And maybe there's a reason he got turned down. In a league that probably even still, but certainly until the last couple of years, had a disproportionately few amount of black head coaches, I just, that doesn't sit right with me. And I'm not here to say you cannot criticize Adrian Griffin, to be clear. I think the first 4 games were kind of rough. Very encouraged by game 5. Again, I talked about giving him an out stock. If he continues coaching like this, I think he'll get one. I do think the way he coaches is more suited to playoffs than regular season. A lot of people concerned about November, who, if Bud was still here, wouldn't care about November ball. They'd be saying, let's see what it looks like in May and June and April, as you pointed out. But those teams had something going on or something correct. Doesn't sit right with me when we've all, as Bucks fans, gone, why didn't Sam Cassell get that job? Why didn't this other coach get this job? These assistants who have been assistants for a long time, almost all of them black. And whereas Steve Nash and others walk right in the job. Not to call out Steve Nash in particular, but this has clearly been a trend. And I think it just rubs me the wrong way, that joke. Again, I'm not saying don't criticize Adrian Griffin. I just think it sucks to make light of that.
Yeah, it's not something, like, again, you can criticize him. Like, that's valid, but you can't criticize him based on a system that's designed to make black head coaches fail. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I thought, great. I'm so happy you brought that up, Ty.
It's one of those where I've been thinking about it a lot, because it's one of those things you want to articulate correctly. But yeah, I don't like that at all. And
criticize him for valid reasons.
Yeah. What's going on out there is fine.
Based on the actual basketball.
Which, again, I think we talked about it early. We talked about it a little bit with the stocks. I think it was good tonight. Do you agree, just quickly before we wrap, do you agree with that assessment that the way he's coached games, the changes made a lot, the different looks, is more adept for a playoff setting than what we've seen? And less adept for November basketball?
I think that is very fair to say. I think because we've seen the Bucks just fail at sort of adapting to situations that are happening right in front of them in the moment. We've seen them make game-to-game changes under Bud. We've seen them. Like, again, we've talked this to death, excuse me. Bud isn't a guy who just didn't adjust. He just didn't adjust in time.
Yeah.
He would make those changes. He would make the necessary moves that he needed to make. It was never proactive. It was always too reactive. Adrian Griffin is a guy who is like showing that he can be a proactive change kind of guy. He's showing that he can be like, oh, this is happening to me right now. I need to fix this right now. He's shown that. And plus, if you're getting all of these reps in so early in the season, you're going to get used to it by the time the playoffs are over.
I mean, we went through 2 full regular seasons and postseasons before the Bucks switched under Bud. It's game 5. The start was bad. I still think just, broke away from the basket is not good. It was 4 games. And obviously Bud's thing worked quicker. It's not like the Bucks were a disaster in the first 2 years and they just kept with it. But I just think there is value in the different ideas being incorporated, even if it's not they would, this is not bold. They would win more games if Bud was the head coach this regular season. I believe that. I'm sure they would. That's not this, that I just feel like people are losing the forest for the trees. That's not the point of making the coaching change. Nobody was dissatisfied with the regular season Bucks. That's not why.
It's the best regular season stretch in the franchise history.
Yeah, and in the league as well, too, over the last X years. But that's not what Giannis and Dame are setting out to do. Nobody in or out of the org is saying 61 wins this year. That's what we're gunning for. It'd be great. I think it'd be awesome. It's not the goal. They won the title as a 3 seed. We all know what the goal is. So it shouldn't be horrible on the way there. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but I just think some things were lost in the outrage over the last week. Hopefully this and more positive trends calm that down a lot more.
Sure. Great, amazing time. Very happy you brought this up.
Yeah.
We got what thoughts on night one of the in-season tournament vibes? Yeah, we've barely touched on it. The Bucks are now 1-0 in group play in the in-season tournament. It's a big deal because you only get 4 of these games. There's 5 teams per group. For those who are unaware, there are 5 teams per group. There are 6 total groups in the entire league, 3 per conference, 5 for each group. And the winners of each group in the conference plus the next highest record win percentage team in group play makes it as a wild card. And so 8 teams in total advance to the knockout stage. And then it's just a single elimination until you reach the championship. And there will be the winner of the NBA Cup. And people really want to not like this. I'm sick of dealing with it, but I'll say my thing. At its worst, it's another regular season game. At its worst, because that's what it is. These games count towards the regular season. In grand total, there is going to be 1 extra game, and that is the championship. Otherwise, everything else is just regular season. So at its worst, take it for what it is. If you don't believe in the stakes or any of that, you don't get excited by all this, then just take it as it is, which is a regular season game, which it is.
Limited sample size. Oh, sorry. Almost every game tonight is good. Just as an aside. It's been a good night of basketball across the league. I'm just looking at scores now, and it's a lot of very competitive games.
For sure. And people are saying, why should we be invested in this? Well, that gets into a whole question of fandom. Why are you invested in anything at all? You have to start somewhere. It's like, why do you care that people that you don't know are lifting a piece of metal in June? Sure. I mean, if you want to be reductive about it, you can be reductive about anything. But just like how are people being incentivized? The cash prize, whatever, $500K per player for the champion. We've seen players talk about this. First of all, now the coaches are included. That came out today.
I need Terry Stott's pockets to hurt for walking away. I will say.
We've seen I think Dame has talked about this. He wants to do it for the two-way guys. $500,000 for a two-way guy. That's I forget what the salary is for a two-way guy, but it's a lot less than $500K. You're helping out your teammates. You want to do this for your guys. For a guy like Dame, $500,000. First of all, it's still an obscene amount.
I was gonna say, I'm sure Giannis is taking. We've heard Giannis talk about money. I'm sure he's taking $500K.
Yeah, but it's also you're not just doing it for you. You're doing it for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's if you want to put credence in it and put stock in it, you can. But if you want to be a pessimist about it, you can just treat it like a regular season game. Because like I said, it is.
Yeah. So the only other game from East Group B, which is the Bucks group, was the Miami Heat beating the Washington Wizards. So the Heat and Bucks are both 1-0. The Zards and Knicks are both 0-1. So the other reason this was a big game, just to start things off, is again, as you mentioned, Rohan, you only get 4. And how it is now, every Friday and Tuesday for the rest of November, every game that happens on those days is an in-season tournament game. So easy to keep track. If it's a Friday or Tuesday in November, it's an in-season tournament game. The Bucks group is obviously the Knicks, the Heat, the Wizards, and the Hornets. So a group that looked a little better coming in. None of these teams have played all that well, Bucks included, frankly. But going into games tonight, the Knicks had the best record. Now they're tied with the Heat because the Heat won. And that's the final game of this seeding stage is Bucks at Heat late this month. So until then, they have a home game and a road game against the Hornets and Wizards. I forget which is which, but you want to take those games seriously. Any team can win. We saw the Hornets absolutely boat race.
It's a home game against the Wizards. Yep.
That's in Charlotte can be tough. We saw that last season. A Bucks team that was rolling got absolutely smoked by Charlotte. But certainly you would think, the Bucks, if they handle business against those teams that both only have one win, they're combined 1-7 so far, that Heat game could be a big deal too. But yeah, you win your group or finish with a top 2 record as a non-group winner across the league. You get to go to the 8-team knockout phase in Vegas. And I've seen this misconception.
No, only the semifinals and championship are in Vegas, I believe.
Oh, is the first round, quote unquote, not whichever. You get to the 8-team knockout. I've seen this misconception that teams get the week off if they don't qualify. That's not true. The NBA is going to place games for everyone that week. So there's going to be normal basketball that week. They just haven't scheduled all the games yet. So there's no big rest benefit to not doing well. You just lose out on more national TV games.
Yeah. And again, we're going to get high stakes basketball. Like there's going to be knockout games. Like it's sort of like what the play-in became. It's like, yeah, people didn't really care. Who cares about the 9 and 10 seed trying to fight their way into the playoffs? At the end of the day, that's still true because they're going to get smoked anyway. I mean, I shouldn't say that after the Heat and Lakers did what they did.
Half of the conference finalists were play-in teams, so you never know.
But yeah, it's for the most part. It doesn't really end up mattering, and people still like it. It's high stakes basketball. Like this is what it's going to be. And again, if you don't care, don't care. Like it's a regular season game. It was going to be played anyway.
Exactly. So yeah, I thought it was a good start. I thought the court looks fine. The city edition looks fine. I don't have strong feelings. I don't think they're great. The inspired from crowd shots thing for the design, sure, it's fine. I don't know. I'm okay with it. Some are worse. A couple are better, which is most of the time with the Bucks. Thankfully, the standard home and road, and again, the black jerseys are all very clean. So it's cool. But I thought the court didn't find it distracting. Thought it was kind of nice, stand out. It's an in-season tournament game. I think they could make just the design for all of them look a lot better next year. But I appreciate that the NBA is trying to make it very clear that these are in-season tournament games. Some have said they haven't gone far enough, but at least they're, not doing like the bare minimum. And it's like, random nights, random games random games aren't. Like, I think it's pretty easy to keep in mind. All right, Tuesdays and Fridays, November, you see the fun courts, alternate uniforms, all that stuff. That's how you know.
Yeah, for sure. It's a worthwhile experiment, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the Bucks have never lost one, so it's history.
Yeah. Undefeated, never lost.
Never lost.
Do we have anything else, Ty?
I feel like I've gotten everything off my chest. I feel very good about the Bucks again.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a roller coaster.
It is.
Season. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in here on Playback. Thank you for dealing with our technical difficulties.
Whoops.
And just thank you for listening in general. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to this, watching this. Make sure you're subscribed. Check out gspn.info for all our links, including the Bucks stock market, where you can track returns all season long. Pod random, and we'll talk to you next time.